Cheers.
Cheers.
Christmas in July. Welcome to Trippin Up. That guy right there, he's Tripp Rogers, and I'm Phil Yale. This is where we reconnect with the music and the memories of the greatest era in popular music. British invasion to Born in the USA. Our spotlight for this episode, Michael Jackson, 1970. Michael Jackson, 1979. Now we're going to start off this episode with our flashback quiz, going back to the 70s. You know, that's the decade where we went from Polaroid cameras to polyester suits. And we're going to invite you to play along in this quiz. Multiple choice for the first one. Here we go.
Okay.
According to Nielsen Media, what was the top-rated show for the years 70 to 71? Was it A, The Flip Wilson Show, B, Here's Lucy, C, Marcus Welby, MD, or D, Gunsmoke?
Now, the one thing I will say to you, Phil, is for the Music Yearbook, I do research on the top shows of the year for the Music Yearbook. So I do those top Nielsen ratings. And I'm trying to think. I want to say out of that list, I would say it's either Flip Wilson or Here's Lucy. I think it's Flip Wilson.
Viewers, let us know what you think. And the answer is Marcus Welby, MD, was number 1. Flip Wilson was 2. Here's Lucy, 3. Number 4 was actually Ironside. And it was pretty close between. It wasn't like there was a major winner, but it was Marcus Welby in at number 1. Well, that was question number 1. That was for 1970. We're going to ask the same question, but change the year. Multiple choice question. According to Nielsen Media, what was the top rated show for the season 78-79? Same decade. New shows. Was it A, Three's Company, B, Mork and Mindy, C, Happy Days, or D, Laverne and Shirley?
Laverne and Shirley. And I say that right off the bat because Happy Days was one of the top shows. Remember, they were all tied into Happy Days. That's amazing. 3 of those 4 shows that you mentioned. But Laverne and Shirley.
Laverne and Shirley is indeed number 1. Number 2 was Three's Company, and Mork and Mindy and Happy Days were both tied at number 3. Okay, open-ended question. 1970. Can you name one of the 3 top box office hits in 1970? One of them resulted in a very popular TV series. I'll give you a hint.
Oh, MASH.
MASH came in at number 3.
Airport?
Airport's number 2. Very good.
Hey, you never know what I can come up with. Missing the number 1 movie from 1970. Man, that wasn't Love Story, was it?
It was indeed Love Story. You got all 3. Congratulations. Love Story, Airport, and MASH in that order. All right, here's our 4th and final question in our flashback quiz. Open-ended question. Same, only changing the year. Can you name one of the 3 top box office hits from 1979?
Well, okay. Animal House was out then.
Not on this list.
Okay. All right. 79. Saturday Night Fever was 77 and Grease was 78. 79 would be, Close Encounters of a Third Kind.
Not on this list.
Oh, wow.
Number 1 featured Dustin Hoffman.
Kramer versus Kramer.
Very good. Number 3 featured Sylvester.
Rocky 2.
And the middle one was the Amityville Horror. Kramer versus Kramer, Amityville Horror, and Rocky 2 were the top three in 1979. That ends our flashback quiz. Hey, viewers, let us know how you did. Share in the comments. Tripp can be found on WTRSradio.com and weekdays on WRHQ.com. That's 105.3 FM in the great city of Savannah, Georgia. Let's get into our A-side challenge, which is obviously tied to music. We're going to go back to the 1970s. A lot of us grew up in that 10-year period from 70 to 79. Me personally, I went from being in junior high school to graduating college, had my first job and my first wife, but that's a topic for a different time. As I said, a lot of us grew up, and I was not alone. So did one Michael Jackson. Our countdown for this challenge has got two parts. Michael Jackson, 1970, with the Jackson 5. Michael Jackson as a solo artist, 1979. So let's go to part one. In 1970, as part of the Jackson 5, they had 4 number one hits on the Hot 100. Tripp has not made aware in advance what the challenge is. So, Tripp, off the top of your head, can you name the 4 number one hits by the Jackson 5 in 1970?
ABC.
ABC is indeed one of them.
I Want You Back.
I Want You Back. That was the first one. Yep.
Never Can Say Goodbye.
Not on this list.
Okay. Want You Back.
They had their biggest of their number one, stayed at number one for 5 consecutive weeks in the fall of 1970. It's about being somewhere.
Oh, Got to Be There.
I'll be there.
I'll be there. That's right. Yeah, I'll be there. Yeah.
I'll be there. And then there's one more.
Oh, I'm drawing a blank, Phil.
The Love You Save. The Love You Save peaked at number one. So the 4 number ones for the Jackson 5 in 1970, I Want You Back, ABC, The Love You Save, I'll Be There. They almost had 5. This is a bonus one. They had one that peaked at number 2. 4 at number 1, 1 at number 2. It was held off only by the Osmonds, who had one bad apple. The name of the song is Mama's Pearl. Mama's Pearl.
And people don't, and because of that, I don't think people really remember Mama's Pearl.
Okay, that was part one of our challenge. That was 1970. A lot of growth took place. Let's go to 1979, to the end of the decade. He had an album called Off the Wall. It produced 4 top 10 charting songs on the Billboard Hot 100 in the U.S. Can you name those 4 songs?
Well, number 1 was Rock With You.
That is correct.
Off the Wall.
Off the Wall came in at number 10. Rock With You was number 1. Off the Wall peaked at number 10. Correct.
Oh, and there was a long dance song, and I can't think of it because I'm drawing a blank on it. But there was a dance song that was a long version. It's like 5 minutes. Don't Stop Till You Get Enough.
Very good.
Yeah,
peaked at number 1. So,
and the fourth one, I'm blanking on.
Fourth one, viewers, do you know? Do you know? Come on, shout it out. I heard you. You're right. It's right. She's Out of My Life peaked at number 10. Peaked at number 10. So those were the 4 off the wall for Michael Jackson. That wraps up our A-side challenge. Now it's time for our B-side, where we digress, dig a little bit deeper. Tripp, what do you got for the B-side?
Well, we talk about Michael Jackson, and we talk about, his life. And again, it's been deciphered so much. The Michael movie was not a warts and all type of thing, but it did focus. I mean, Joe Jackson was made the enemy. And one of the things that you had happen in the 1970s with Motown was it went from this family operation, this group in Detroit out to Los Angeles. And in some ways, Motown lost its way. And it was at a time when artists started to have some power. And a lot of those artists started leaving Motown because of they weren't getting paid enough money. They got frustrated with dealing with Barry Gordy or not dealing with Barry Gordy. And that was part of the issue, I think, with this. And the Jacksons were the Jackson Five were one of those groups. And when their contract came up, and they were doing concerts and they were doing all this stuff, but the future was Michael, and it was recognized early on that Michael was the future of this group. And so Michael, he had a couple of solo hits and released, but he was part of the Jackson Five, and Joe Jackson insisted on that. One of the things that happened was they decided to leave Motown Records. They left Motown, and Jermaine stayed with Motown. So they brought Randy into the group as the fifth member of the Jackson, and they had to become the Jacksons because Jackson 5 was owned by Motown. So that was a part of this. And then one of the things about moving to, it was Epic Records they moved to, was they wanted to do something with Michael. And so, and there's a pivotal scene in the movie where Joe Jackson says, well, you can do that when you want to at night, but you're not doing it during the day. You're still a part of this family and you're part of this group. And Joe Jackson tried to hang on to Michael, and basically Michael ended up firing him as his manager. And he decided he went and did Off the Wall with Quincy Jones. And it was just, it was just a harbinger of what was to come. And then, of course, he did Thriller. And Thriller absolutely blew everybody away. And then Michael Jackson, when he did Thriller, by the way, he was only in his 20s. So then he followed that up with Bad, and Bad was in some ways as big as Thriller. You had so many number one songs off the album and stuff. Where Do You Go But Down? And it was then that Michael Jackson's behavior started to become a question. And there was a lot of eyeballs on him. And he kind of lost his way. But part of it, I think, was because he never had a childhood. His father was abusive. I think it was portrayed in the movie. And you almost feel sorry about it. And, you mentioned, funny, you mentioned the Osmonds. Donny Osmond and Michael Jackson were buddies. And they would get together when they were kids and they would play. And Michael was just mystified at, he saw the family group, the Osmond family group. His family wasn't like that. His father was very abusive. And I think that was part of what happened to Michael. And, I kind of, it's easy to point the finger, but, a lot of people do that with the Jacksons. And the movie also pointed out that Jackson's tour of 1984, what they didn't talk about was the fact that Don King was involved with it, and it was underwritten by Chuck Sullivan, who owned the New England Patriots football team. Well, Chuck lost so much money, he had to sell the New England Patriots. And they were bought by a guy named Robert Kraft.
Mm.
And I think we know what happened then. Okay. Just figured I'd mention that real quick. But yeah, Michael Jackson and Phil, I like that you kind of did both ends of the 70s there, because again, the Jacksons came out of the box so strong, Jackson 5, and then Michael came out so strong at the end of the decade.
One of the things that became apparent to me, and you touched on it briefly in a previous episode, too often, and I'm guilty of this, I refer to the 60s and the 70s. The reality of it is the 60s, there's not really a lot of commonality for the music in the 60s. There's not a lot of commonality in the music of the 70s. There's so many eras within each of these decades. And just the bookends that we have here with Michael Jackson in 1970 as part of the Jackson 5, and then as a solo artist, kind of brings that to light. I got a couple things for the B-side. I just to emphasize what you talked about. Michael Jackson He was the first solo artist in history to score 4 top 10 hits off of one album, off the wall. Do you know who the second one was?
4 top 10 hits off an album?
At least 4, yeah.
I'll go Bruce Springsteen.
Lionel Richie.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Lionel.
That's my little bit of my deep dive. And one more thing I'll point out: we've talked about the TV shows for 1978, 79. The year later, in 79, 80, the top rated shows were 60 Minutes, Three's Company. That's Incredible was number 3, and then there was a tie between MASH. And you want to take a wild guess at what it was tied with? Alice.
Dallas.
Alice,
Oh,
very
Alice?
good.
I said Dallas.
Oh,
But
it's Alice.
Okay, but yeah, Alice. Okay, I'll go with that. I thought it was Dallas, but it's yeah. Well, it's amazing the difference a year makes. And if you remember, and just the little sidelight here, Fred Silverman was the guy who turned ABC around. I mean, before Fred Silverman, it was a 2-horse race. ABC had some hits, but it was CBS and NBC. And then Fred Silverman made it a 3-horse race. And then Fred Silverman left ABC, went to NBC. And it was in 78, 79, Fred Silverman was there. And ABC took a hit, but NBC never really got what they wanted from Fred Silverman. And he had a very unsuccessful uh, career there as president of NBC and was shown the door. And it was Grant Tinker who was the one who really resurrected. Grant Tinker was Mary Tyler Moore's husband for a while. And he resurrected NBC in the 1980s when they did all the Thursday shows with The Cosby Show and Family Ties and stuff like that. But I digress. So you were seeing that transition, by the way, that Fred Silverman had left and ABC kind of lost that magic touch because you just listed those shows, and Three's Company is the only one from ABC, if I'm not mistaken.
And you mentioned the TV shows. Tripp, you got a great show for TV tunes.
Yeah,
Again, where can we find it?
Tube Tunes is a labor of love. It is a suggestion that I had from my stepson, and so we do it on Saturday and Sunday mornings at 8:00. And it's something that has developed a little following on WTRSradio.com, which you can find on the TuneIn Radio app. You can also find it on Apple Music, and you can find it on Live365.com. And we have now spun off a little bit on one of our affiliates. In fact, the first station I did the Music Yearbook on, which is Vinyl 91.9 WBNJ in Barnegat, New Jersey. Online, it's WBNJ.org. And we do a tube tune of the day, and we do that Monday through Friday. So I get to talk about my love for TV songs and TV themes. And like I say, I do that show every weekend, and it's so much fun.
What did you learn from this episode, Tripp?
I think the thing I learned most was the top shows of 1970, because I was surprised at that list. And Marcus Welby was number 1. I knew Marcus Welby was up there in the ratings, but I didn't realize it was number 1 for the year. And the show was more popular than I thought it was. And the other thing I guess I learned is that Mama's Pearl, I think number 2 broke the string of number 1 songs for the Jackson 5.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I was unaware of that one. What I learned was that there was this album put out by Michael Jackson in 1979. I had completely checked out of music in the late 70s. That album completely passed me by. And time went by, and I did check in on every one of the songs that we talked about. Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, Rock With You, Off the Wall, and She's Out of My Life. Once I played them, they were a little bit familiar to me. But it was me really learning a little bit more about that. And I agree with you on the TV shows. Marcus Welby, MD, completely surprised me as being the number 1 show.
Who were the stars?
Who were the stars of Marcus Welby, MD? I have no idea.
Robert Young,
Oh boy. Okay.
okay, was Marcus Welby, MD, and his sidekick was Mr. Barbra Streisand, James Brolin.
Oh, really?
You didn't know that? Yeah, James
No.
Brolin.
No.
James
Very,
Brolin.
very good.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
good.
The show aired Tuesday nights at 10 o'clock. Don't ask me how I know that, Phil.
But you do. And you also know that it's time for Tripp's Triple Play. I asked you to pick three of your favorite songs from those that we talked about in this episode. Tripp, what do you got?
Well, I have to. I'm very partial to the Jackson 5 days, and I think that those number one songs were really good. You know, ABC is a classic. I Want You Back, and Got to Be There, or I'll Be There. Great song, and the thing about it was, Motown did not do a lot of sappy love songs. My Girl, My Guy, some of the Miracles hits, but you didn't have a lot of these slow ballad type songs, and that was a change. And that was when I think Motown realized they had something special with Michael Jackson.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I mean, I'm going to go with I'll Be There because I'm most familiar with that one. The one, as I was listening to the album, that kind of put a little pep in my step, I'll mention is Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. Tripp and I, we grew up in communities built on affinity of like who we liked, what we liked, but we were limited by geography, the communities that we grew up with. We don't have that same limitation these days. We connect with others no matter what or where we happen to be. On this channel, our affinity, well, it's just great music. Thank you for joining us, and come back again as we revisit the music memories from the greatest era in music, from the British invasion to Born in the USA.